Talking Star Wars presents Talking Avatar.
Hello, Avatar and Star Wars fans. My name is Alex,
And I'm Connor.
and today we are going to continue our mini-series discussing Avatar: The Last Airbender before we get back to our primary duty of talking about Star Wars.
And I'm surprised that it's taken us this long in order to discuss that which is an avatar. That is our topic for today. What is an avatar? What is the role of the avatar in this world and in fiction at large?
Yeah, so in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and the surrounding media, much of the storytelling, and in fact all of the series that have been released so far, have revolved around one of these key characters, one of the avatars. Containing the knowledge and wisdom of all of their past lives, reincarnated through a specific cycle of elements. The Avatar has enormous power at their fingertips and also has to face the many unique challenges presented by the world that they live in as they occupy this unique space of both physical power, spiritual authority, and geopolitical weight.
Hmm. And the Avatar kind of operates on this idea of the chosen one concept, but there isn't a single individual chosen one. I mean, there is in the world only one Avatar at any given point, but they are part of a lineage, much like the Dalai Lama in the real world, passing from one lifetime down to the next.
Yeah, so there are some key attributes of the Avatar that we can establish. As
Mhm.
Connor said, there is only one avatar at a time. The avatar spirit, which we later learn's name is Rava, the spirit of light, uh, is bound to the bloodline, or not really bloodline, the um, spiritual line of the avatar, and provides both a great deal of their power as well as transferring the consciousnesses and lives of the past lives of the avatar. The
Mhm.
avatar is the only individual that can bend more than one element by drawing on the knowledge of those past lives and by the knowledge obtained by their original progenitor avatar, Juan. The avatar is a bridge for the spirit world, being having their soul joined with the one of the most powerful spirits in existence, allows them unique abilities to travel to and from the spirit world, and also just involves them in a lot of other, I would say, hijinks, activities, responsibilities. The avatar is the focal point around which many machinations move, around which plans must be made. They are an indelible and undeniable part of the setting of Avatar. And so people's plans and worldview always have to take the avatar into account.
Mhm. The Avatar is seen as the savior. They are seen as if there's ever imbalance in the world, they are the ones to set it right again. I'm getting shades of the Chosen One prophecy from uh, as Anakin, in his life trying to live up to it. But the Avatar's a little bit more crystal clear, just because they can say, well, when you look back at the past generation, this is what the previous Avatar was able to accomplish. So there's this immense stress that comes with being the Avatar, because they not only have to live up to the prophecy, they also have to live up to every single other individual that has arrived before them. So stress.
And we also know that each avatar is not omnipotent, even if they are respected and have a great support system and have a great amount of moral authority to draw upon. It is hardly true that powerful individuals across the four nations welcome the attention of the Avatar.
Mhm.
Sometimes some want to treat the Avatar as a spiritual figurehead with no real political authority. Some wish the Avatar to confine themselves to simply spiritual matters and let the temporal rulers of the world handle the politics and the ruling of
Mhm.
individuals. And many, many people underestimate the actual power available to the Avatar when they do need to draw upon it, the sheer might of the Avatar spirit and the
Mhm.
combined knowledge of all of their past lives. We see it again and again that no one who has not experienced it firsthand can really quite understand or grasp how outclassed they are. We have
Mhm.
not seen in a fully realized Avatar without exacerbating circumstances any particular individual who is able to stand up against a fully realized Avatar.
Right. And we see from other cultures, other nations, particularly during Aang's time, that the Avatar is seen as this figure that should be wiped out, destroyed, at least by the Fire Nation, because the Avatar is strong enough in order to overcome their machinations entirely and their Fire Lord, or by the Earth Kingdom being utilized as a tool. They see that the Avatar should serve the public, should serve the people. So if again, the Fire Nation is overcoming the world and taking power and land away from the Earth Kingdom. The Earth Kingdom sees, hey, you, Avatar, should fight for us. When, again, the Avatar doesn't serve any single nation, he serves the world.
And we see avatars with varying levels of attachment and loyalty to their home nation. So I think we can sort of do a survey. There's about 8 avatars that we know a detailed amount of information about, and then a couple more that are mentioned in passing in some of the novels that we can briefly mention. But
Mhm.
should we start?
Probably with one.
So start at the oldest avatar then.
Yeah, because I think that'll help describe some of the traits that the avatars have, why they are able to bend all four powers, things like that.
All right, so the oldest avatar, the original avatar we're aware of, his name is Juan. He was granted all of his bending ability by visiting the various primordial lion turtles present in the world before the spirit world and the physical world were separated, as shown in season 2 of The Legend of Korra. And he accidentally interfered in an age-long fight between Rava, the spirit of light, and Vatu, the spirit of darkness. And in an attempt to defeat Vatu and stop him from destroying the world, uh, Juan fused his spirit with that of Rava to both save her and himself. And then for the next 10,000 years, Juan's spirit and Rava's were together, beginning the Avatar cycle and taking
Mhm.
his master of all four elements, even after the nation separated and people lost the ability to learn more than one bending talent. The Avatar retained that ability and so passed it on. And even when Juan died after a lifetime of trying to prevent conflict in the world, he then was born anew into a the next person in the Avatar cycle, and it took the order in which Juan learned the elements: fire, air, water, earth, and then the Avatars reincarnate in that cycle for individuals that already have that bending ability or have that genetic background.
Mhm. And it's important to note that humans 10,000 years ago in this story were never meant to possess one element, or I should say, they're never meant to possess more than one element. So it is only with Rava's interference that Juan is able to obtain and maintain all four elements at once.
You are correct. And
Okay.
we see even individuals with parents that had multiple of different bending abilities, such as Avatar Kyoshi's parents. One of whom was an Airbender, one of whom was an Earthbender. She herself was a native Earthbender until she unlocked her Avatar abilities. And we see for non-avatars, we have siblings with Mako and Bolin, one of their parents being a firebender, one being an earthbender. Um, Bolin got the earthbending, Mako got the firebending. So other
Mhm.
than the avatar, we have no other individual that shows any ability to directly bend any other element. We have individuals that are able to copy disciplines and grow their knowledge through observation, but the direct manipulation of more than one element is entirely under the purview of the avatar.
Mhm.
Not even Unavatu, Dark Avatar, is able to do more than waterbend. Vatu is more about giant spirit rays than he is about learning more than waterbending.
Right. He has really no interest in the earthly tangible elements. So he is all about his dark spirit lasers. It's interesting to note that Rava and Batu have this cyclical conflict that will never end. They will always be battling light versus dark, with either side not able to eradicate the other. So they will always be an avatar reincarnating into this world in order to provide more balance.
Well, unless the Avatar is murdered while calling on the powers of Rava, in which
True.
case Rava's spirit would be permanently sundered from a human lineage. So it is the joining of those two powers that allows the Avatar to exist, and it is
Mhm.
the explicit goal of the Red Lotus in season 3 of Korra to bring the Avatar cycle to an end by forcing an Avatar into the Avatar state and then killing them.
Hmm.
thus forcing Raba's spirit to permanently leave the host of the avatar. And without another harmonic convergence to reaffirm that bond, it would have been permanent.
Hmm. But they are unsuccessful, and so the Avatar remains. Uh, as far as the lineage goes, we don't see who follows Wan for thousands upon thousands of years.
Yeah, one we know is about 10,000 years before the life of Aang and Korra, and the next Avatar we start to know something about, Zato, Yangchen, Kuruk, Kyoshi. Um, those are just a few hundred years before Aang and Korra's day. So there is this enormous, lineage of avatars going for thousands of years that become such a steeped and established part of the world, about the duration of current recorded written human history.
Hmm.
So the avatars become an absolute fixture of the world by the time any avatar after Wan is even mentioned.
Hmm.
Their existence is undeniable. Their powers are great. The knowledge they have to draw on is almost infinite, and the problems they have to solve are ever growing, ever changing, and always problematic.
Hmm. So the first one that you mentioned here, would that be Yang Chen, who is the next Avatar that we see so long after the fact, after Wan?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple other avatars that we know came before Yangchen because Yangchen's mentions them, as do some
Sure.
other individuals. But the next viewpoint avatar we have after Wan is Yangchen, who lived about 400 years before Korra's time, or 300 years before Aang's time.
Hmm.
Yang Chen was the air nomad avatar before Aang, and she had the unique ability to have almost perfect recall of all of the memories of her past lives. So, as fans of the series will know, typically to call upon the memories of an avatar, it is easier to do during a solstice or equinox, or for a fully realized avatar, and it's typically done in small doses and often, by an avatar externalizing the spirit of their past life and conversing with
Hmm.
them. Yang Shen did
Not
not have,
fully reliving, yeah.
yeah, she could, um, in a moment of stray thought, have this whole solipsistic falling into a past memory that overpowered her immediate self almost right away. And so while she had the ability to call upon these memories, it was incredibly traumatic because it was hard for her to hang on to her own identity.
Hmm.
And this is likely due to both a very close spiritual connection, a unique ability she possessed, as well as certain traumatic events that happened in her childhood around the spirit world. Um,
Sure.
where the chicken and egg of that situation happened, we're not quite sure.
Hmm.
But yeah, so Yang Chen, by the time of at least Kyoshi's day, is known as a wise and powerful avatar that people still call on even though she's deceased, um, especially given the unique nature of Kuruk and Kyoshi's avatarhoods. Yang Chen has this long shadow of her greatness that sort of extends through the the world in which she lived. The novels that we have from her perspective, however, are her as a young woman trying to challenge political systems, a mad emperor, the discovery of powerful and unbalancing bending techniques that threaten the peace of the world, while she herself uh, makes a series of questionable decisions in an attempt to keep the world spinning. So, engaging in forbidden bending techniques herself, hiring spies, arranging assassinations, uh, keeping
As
people
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, keeping people prisoner. Okay, she never does directly arrange an assassination. She thinks it would be really convenient if her morals would let her do so, but instead she wants to, imprison people, hide them away, blackmail them, engages in all these. She's like a spy avatar while outwardly appearing very spiritual.
Interesting. So as far as you mentioned forbidden techniques, would these be forbidden air nomad techniques, or as the Avatar is she pulling from other disciplines?
Both, but the one we primarily see her use is the one that we see Zahir use to murder the Earth Queen in Legend of Korra. She's able
Gotcha.
to drain all the air out of a room, which is a technique the air nomads do not discuss that they can actually do. In fact, no one knows that. But when she is facing some very dangerous combustion benders, the only way she has to defeat them is to remove all the oxygen from the rooms they're in until they can no longer bend, and then they pass out from hypoxia.
Hmm.
and almost asphyxiate. So, and
Scary.
then yeah, and she does not enjoy doing that. But Yang Chen is a big believer in working herself up to doing what she thinks needs to be done, and then filling in the gaps later.
Hmm.
So she does that a lot. You know, yeah. So I think she must mellow out later in life to get the reputation she has. But we know
Hmm.
by the time of Kyoshi's day, when Kyoshi speaks with her spirit, Yang Chen admits to her flaws. She arranged a lot of um, one of the big challenges that through Yangchen, Kuruk's, and Kyoshi's day was imbalance between the growing human population that's increasingly industrialized and then the spirits and the places sacred to them and places where the boundaries between the spirit world and the real world are weak. And
Hmm.
so Yang Chen arranges a series of rituals and arrangements and treaties with various powerful spirits, but usually favored towards humans because she's trying to protect as much human life as possible. And whenever humans violate this, because humans have much shorter memories than spirits, it
Right.
causes conflict with the spirits. And that what's Kuruk spends most of his short life trying to fix are all of the spirits that are attempting to wreak bloody revenge on humans that have violated the terms of the treaty, the slanted, unfair, as best as she could manage treaties that Yang Chen threw together to prevent total spiritual apocalypse.
Hmm. So that seems like a good point to transition. Any other thoughts on Yang Chen before discussing the short and tragic life of Avatar Kuruk?
Yeah, so I would be interested to see Yang Chen as an older woman.
Hmm.
By the time she talks to Aang, she definitely seems like, and Kyoshi, she definitely seems like she's mellowed out. The Yang Chen we meet in the Yang Chen novels, The Dawn of Yang Chen and Legacy of Yang Chen, are she's a little bit crazed is the wrong word, but utterly committed to her goals and
Hmm.
um, slightly imbalanced all the time. She lies, she schemes, she holds people at varying distances. Um, One of her closest companions is someone she's betrayed and that has betrayed her more than once.
Hmm.
So she has a fraught relationship with the Order of the White Lotus, who themselves are a rather gray. Though they call themselves the White Lotus, I'd call them the Gray Lotus for some of the
Sure.
questionable activities they engage in. But overall, I find her very compelling, and she's the oldest Avatar before Korra, after Wan, but before Korra that we actually get a viewpoint from.
Sure. So yeah,
So
considering your otherwise peaceful, global-minded air nomads, it's interesting to have one who has a little bit more personal strife and still trying to, of course, do the greater good.
yeah, and spoilers for anyone who hasn't read The Legacy of Yang Chen, but Yang Chen uh, pushes forward so hard and he tries to keep all these points spinning to the point where she gets exiled from the Western Air Temple. One of the only people to actually be exiled in her lifetime, just for some of the decisions that she makes.
Well, if you're not being exiled by someone as the Avatar, I don't know if you're doing your job right. You're supposed to shake the tree and balance things out within the universe.
Yeah. So that the next Avatar that we don't really get a viewpoint from him, but his life weighs very heavily on his successor, Kyoshi. So we have to talk about Avatar Kuruk, who
Hmm.
we see both in a flashback from Aang and we see in flashback in Kyoshi's time and the effects of his shortened life. In that, the companions of Avatar Kuruk after his death try to find the next Avatar and have very strong views about how to best carry on Kuruk's legacy
Hmm.
to the detriment of his successor, Kyoshi. So Kuruk himself had a reputation as sort of a playboy avatar, drinking, skirt chasing, engaging with a variety of lovers, always enjoying the life of the party a little bit. There wasn't a lot of political strife in Kuruk's time. Yang Chen had brought upon an area of peace, but unbeknownst to almost anyone but Kuruk, there was great spiritual upheaval. And for his own reasons, he did not tell anyone this was happening. He simply engaged in battle secretly with many of these spirits, which continued to take a toll on him, and it's what led to his early death. So To the outside, it appeared like he was sort of just whining and sleeping with women and gambling, when really he was just desperately attempting to stave off complete spiritual collapse, which he eventually was unable to do so and died.
Mhm.
After a woman he did fall for, after he was rejected by one of his companions, who was already married, because Kuruk did not make good decisions in his love life.
Mhm.
uh, Buried another woman. In retaliation for one of his spiritual efforts, Ko the face stealer stole her face, and Kuruk died. Um,
And we see that follow up with Avatar later on, or I should say, we see that follow up with Aang later on when he has to encounter Ko, and Ko tries to taunt Aang with the face of Kuruk's former love, but Aang doesn't quite remember who that is.
yeah, but it's bad news, and that I think is one of the best world building moments in Avatar when Aang confronts a spirit one of his past lives fought against, and not no details are given. Not even Kuruk gives Kyoshi all the details in an earlier flashback, but you get the sense that the Avatar has been around and has made all these arrangements, these deals, um, just has a weight in the world that is beyond the current form the Avatar is taking with Aang.
So Kuruk has a, again, short tragic life. How does that affect Kyoshi's life as Avatar during the next cycle?
Well, one, Kuruk doesn't really live long enough to establish a great reputation. So, whereas even in Aang's day, Roku was well respected and had fond memories of people that were not Fire Lord Sozin and his descendants. People by the time of Kyoshi's day are still revering Yangchen, who lived a long time. So Kuruk, and then usually the team avatar or the list of the group of companions the avatar has around them age with the avatar, and the avatar might outlive many of them, or at least if they are still around, they're sort of elderly and passing off the torch to the next generation.
Hmm.
Kuruk's companions are still hale and vibrant and in like their 40s and 50s and are have an active interest in keeping the world stable. An avatar's not supposed to die at the age of 33. So it does send the world into sort of a tailspin that his companions feel themselves obliged to handle, which
Hmm.
they do with increasingly questionable decisions. Um, for anyone who has not read the Kyoshi novels, I don't want to spoil anything, but the primary antagonist of the Kyoshi novels is Kuruk's best friend, Zhanzu. And Zhanzu wants to keep Kuruk's legacy alive. He's an earthbender, and the earth kingdom and the world are out of balance, and he will keep it in balance by whatever means necessary, whatever he has to do, including increasingly wildly deranged things or murderous things to keep everything under control and to keep his own control over Kyoshi, who was not raised in a compound learning the elements, but due to her unique upbringing, was not detected as Avatar until she was 16 years old.
So she's dealt with a life where, say, if we look at Aang, who is the, quintessential example of an avatar, it's the first one that we're introduced to just in terms of media. He's very independent. He introduces us to the world of the avatar, and we see different facets of the world. It seems like with Kyoshi, we have this established world that she is living in and is sort of determining what the path of her life is going to be.
Yeah, so Kyoshi definitely inhabits a world that is more unstable than Kuruk or Yangchen. Uh, and Kyoshi herself has lived an unstable life. She does not know her parents abandoned her at a young age, and they themselves were not exactly upstanding citizens. She's not raised in luxury and wealth. She's in the household of people who people think is the Avatar, who turns out to be just a desperate attempt by Zhanzu to convince himself he knew who the next Avatar was. She's an incredibly powerful bender, but doesn't quite recognize her own abilities until later in her life. And by the time she figures out she's the Avatar, she's already fighting against her mentor, uncle figure, Zhanzu, who is not willing to tolerate her independence. Yeah, so Kyoshi, it should be noted, is also the longest lived Avatar. The She One of her companions, known as Lao Ge, or Tianshan the Immortal, teaches her an earthbending technique to, basically slow down her aging process considerably. And
Mhm.
it's unknown if she could have lived forever or if she simply lived for more than 200 years and then decided, yep, that's a good enough run, and allowed herself to
Right.
die. But yeah, she's the longest lived of the avatars, living to be over 200 years old, using this
Mhm.
secret earthbending technique. And yeah, in her life, she fights spirits, she defeats her mentor, she fights her best friend that's been inhabited by a spirit who tries to murder most of the Fire Nation nobility, and she deals with a corrupt Fire Lord. So um, she is scarred by the first lightning bender to appear in centuries that attempts to
Mhm.
murder her. So Kyoshi faces a wide range of threats. And I think she has this reputation in the Avatar fandom as sort of this brutal or, you know, almost murderous Avatar. Instead, I think she's very pragmatic. She lived a life of conflict, and none of all she sometimes had to make tragic but necessary decisions. Um, uh, Aang hesitated to kill his worst enemy when he needed to stave off a war. Kyoshi, with tears in her eyes, killed her best friend to stop him from, becoming evil.
Mhm.
So, and she would do it again.
And when we see her actually in the show, we have a great montage of Aang speaking with a selection of his, past Avatar lives, and they all essentially have this message. But I believe that Kyoshi was very adamant in the notion that Aang really needs to execute the Fire Lord. That the world would be greater and better off if Aang just did one murder, just one. And
Yeah,
yeah, her attitude towards that helps shape that characterization of her, I feel.
yeah, because in Kyoshi's life, she spared someone one time and they just killed more people. So she was not on the forgiveness train herself.
Hmm.
And was her advice the right or wrong? Well, that's really for the audience to decide. As long as Kyoshi lived, she's still just another person. So you can draw upon the wisdom of your past lives, but they're still just viewpoints and people. They don't collectively, they possess a lot of viewpoints and a lot of wisdom, but just the avatar, as we've established again and again, is not all knowing, all wise, or all powerful. They are powerful and wise, but knowledge is only as good as what the context within which you use it.
Hmm. True.
So after Kyoshi, we then get to the Avatar right before Aang, and he's probably the most standard Avatar we see because in
Hmm.
comparison between Aang's life and Roku's life, we can see their differences. Roku is alerted that he's the Avatar at age 16. He goes through the traditional training regimen of journeying between the four nations,
In
and if
peace,
yeah, in a
without,
world
yeah.
he's able to train and become a fully realized avatar without any crises that we see. And if there are, resolves them. And then the first big crisis he has, he's already um, a full adult, um, on the cusp of getting married himself, when
Hmm.
his best friend, the most powerful ruler in the world, confesses he just wants to commit some light imperialism, just a little bit of colonial conquest, just a smidge of global hegemony, and Roku shuts that down. Roku, we learn, has a rather rigid view of the world, which serves him well in his day, but leaves him blindsided when his viewpoint doesn't work, and causes even a rift between him and Aang when Aang seeks out his advice to try to find the New World Order after the end of the Hundred Years' War.
Hmm.
But Roku himself keeps the lid on the Sozin pot for decades. And it is only Roku's death that allows Sozin to then proceed with his plans for conquest.
When you say
Because
Roku's death, you mean Roku's manslaughter at the hands of Sozin.
Roku's abandonment at the edge of a volcano while Sozin watches him die.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely this tension between a lot of these avatars. No, not really affecting Aang and Korra, which I think shows that they are healthier, perhaps emotionally. Which I mean might surprise Connor when I say Korra's healthier emotionally, but because Roku's best friend kills him,
Hmm.
Kyoshi's best friend she has to murder to stop him from being consumed by an evil spirit. Kuruk's best friend, um, two best friends. One becomes known as the Typhoon and sinks an entire
Ah,
fleet. Another one buries 5,000 people alive and becomes known as, Zhanzu. He has a variety of fun titles about how murderous he is and attempts to control and kill his successor. And in fact, he never tries to kill Kyoshi. He's just like, I will continue to kill innocent people around you until you do what I say. So that's Kuruk's best friend. And Yang Chen's best friend is a operative for the White Lotus who continually betrays her and is betrayed by her until they reach an equilibrium. Um, and then for any previous avatars, I can't really speak on. I got a couple more we'll reference, but
mhm.
until Aang's day, we're not exactly batting 100 for the quality of the best friends of the Avatar.
Right.
Um, and I would say Aang marries his best friend because I would say Katara is his best friend, and then
Mhm.
Sokka, his other best friend, becomes part of his councils. But I guess if Zuko was one of his best friends, Zuko did try to kill him several times. So I guess we're
Sure.
continuing that.
That was
Um,
before he became best friends with them, though, so at least that's progress.
I suppose that's progress. And by Korra's day, one of her best friends has the opportunity to betray her, but then Asami's like, "No, Dad, here's the electroshock gauntlet, and also I'm going to go date the Avatar." So, um, Korra probably has the most success with friendships, which she desperately needed because she herself has trouble with the um, challenges that she faces in her day and needs the friends around her.
And really, her friendship is the connective tissue between Korra and Republic City, because she has no idea what this melting pot land is, having grown up in the more traditional eras of the world, uh, traditional regions of the world.
Yeah,
So going to Republic City, she needs those friends to teach her what the world is all about.
yeah. Korra does continue the Water Tribe uh, tradition of having a badly managed crush on the firebending member of Team Avatar. Because Kuruk confesses his love for his for Heiran, his firebending companion, right before she's about to get married to another man. Um,
Ah,
so, so it's a bad decision.
mhm.
Um, and then Korra, of course, involved with Mako, and then breaks up with him, and then Mako's with Asami, breaks up with Asami. Korra gets with Mako. There's a love triangle. It's a bad love triangle.
Mhm.
And in fact becomes an unhelpful love quadrilateral once Bolin has a crush on Korra. So uh, Korra might do better with the not being betrayed by a member of Team Avatar, but certainly, apparently, the Water Tribe avatars are just, you know, the whole fire water mixing thing just makes a lot
Mhm.
of painful steam for everyone involved.
Ah, too appealing to them. So as far as the general landscape of avatars go, we have a very wide understanding of who Aang and Korra are, and we've been discussing them for this entire mini season of podcasting. Um, but just kind of looking at the Avatar as this member of fiction, uh, I think that it is a very interesting, brand new way of uh, forming a hero, someone who has undeniable power, but someone who actually must go through the steps of learning it. Um, I can like draw parallels to Harry Potter, but Harry Potter's in a school of other wizards and witches. The Avatar's journey is much more singular at any given time, where no one in the world knows what it's like to be the Avatar unless the Avatar can link with his past lives or her past lives. Um, but
Well,
it's very unique if it's not a wizard, not a Jedi, not a Spider-Man. To be the Avatar is to have an immense amount of responsibility.
yeah, the character of the Avatar from a storytelling perspective is a very useful one. It gives you an excuse to have a person of any age be involved in anything that you want to have involved in the world, where their problems cannot be simply solved by the application of like comic book v comic book strength. Like it, by the time Aang fights the Fire Lord and gets into the Avatar state, it is not a question of can he kill Ozai, because the answer is absolutely yes.
Mhm.
The answer is should he kill Ozai? Uh, and when many of the challenges Korra faces cannot be overcome by sheer brawn. You know, if Korra faced Amon in a 1v1 battle and knew he was coming, could she defeat him? And Yeah, probably Unalaq as well, but Amon has a whole movement, and she can't just go kill all of the Equalists or Equalist
Hmm.
sympathizers, or imprison them, whatever Tarlok wants to do.
It's a
And
problem she can't punch away.
yeah, so Aang needs to learn to punch away his problems, and Korra needs to learn she can't punch away her problems. But it gives the character of the Avatar are going to be involved in all of those. In some
Mhm.
ways, it's an active way where it's a problem the Avatar has to go out and solve, and sometimes the Avatar just attracts problems that people want them to solve, such
Mhm.
as in the comic book The Promise, when there's tension between the Earth Kingdom and Fire Nation, and Aang is drawn into it, or the White Lotus or the Red Lotus, who seek out the Avatar and attempt to kill her, to meet their anarchist and New World Order goals. So the
Mhm.
Avatar is always a focus of attention, power, sycophants, a conflict, because they are singular, they are powerful, and they usually attract a powerful following themselves.
And what brings me to it personally as just enjoying this archetype, this new concept of hero, is that every avatar is undeniably human. They have to cope with the fact that they are, in that regard, equal to everyone else with their own dramatic conflicts. They also just have to put up with pretty much being born president or Dalai Lama, or just being born with this innate responsibility and power. Uh, we get to see how that affects them as humans, which is very, very engaging to us fellow humans.
Yeah, they're not from Krypton. They are humans born in the world that they live in, products of their time, and they must deal with the challenges of their time with the tools they have available. They might have more power and more knowledge to draw than the average person, but they also have much larger responsibilities, conflicts, and antagonists standing in their way.
Mhm. So,
Uh,
any final thoughts, Alex, when it comes to the world or the character that is the Avatar?
just to honorably mention a few other avatars we know existed. We know that the Fire Nation avatar before Yangchen's name was Zato, and he was primarily a bureaucrat, in that what was needed was to stop an all-consuming worldwide war started by a civil war between the Fire Nation. So he spent his entire life staying in his home nation and, bound them together. To the fact that in Yangchen's day, she's kind of seen as a wild card compared to the very official and bureaucratic Zato. But then we have another couple of avatars that she mentions, Salai and Goon. Salai was apparently very well known, in the same way that Yang Chen is known. But by the time of Yang Chen's day, people have mostly forgotten Salai. Was once remembered as one of the greatest avatars, then is now forgotten. And then there's another avatar before Salai who was even more well known, Goon, and Goon is entirely forgotten by all but sages. So it's Yang Chen ruminating on how even the best avatars are forgotten, but the avatar themselves continues.
Yeah, let's end this episode on the just coolest named Avatar of all time, Avatar Goon.
It's it's Chinese. I'm probably mispronouncing it. It's
And I
it's
feel
spelled
bad.
like gun, so maybe it might be just Avatar gun.
Okay,
Uh, but
a gun's cooler than a goon, and
yeah,
I guess guns don't kill people, goons do. Huh? Huh?
yeah. So Avatar gun, Avatar goon. We're not
Mhm.
really sure what they did, but they were once known, and renowned, and have now been forgotten, along with Avatar Salai. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and they are so forgotten we have forgotten how to pronounce their name.
So that is our review of the character of the Avatar in the Avatar universe. The avatars that we know about, the cyclical things that we see happen in their lives, the conflicts they have to overcome, and how they function as this focal character in the fiction that they have.
Mhm.
In that, for example, in Star Wars, we're calling out for let's have stories that are not about Skywalkers, where in the world of the Avatar, we're like, we can have stories about the Avatar, but they're interesting and they're all different. So we're kind of fine with that, especially when the story has the gumption to be like, all right, we're 70 years in the future, new Avatar, go.
Mhm. And I'm excited to see what that brings for whatever inevitable series that we get depicting the Avatar after Korra. The world's going to be so much more technologically advanced. We don't know how the fallout of Korra's development in combining the spiritual world with the physical world is going to develop. It's an exciting time. I think that just the nature of the Avatar and knowing that we are going to get the same subset of powers, the same idea of training. However, we are going to have a completely different, unique individual behind them.
Yeah, and we're part of a new Avatar cycle because after the fight with Vatu, the Avatar cycle was started anew after Korra's connections with her past lives were severed by Vatu. So going forward, it'll be Korra will be the new Wan,
Mhm.
very different than him, and then we'll see the slow accumulation of more knowledge and past lives as a new reincarnation cycle of the Avatar continues.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Well, I suppose it's been an exciting time uh, for a while, just having new graphic novels and books to read as far as continuing the Avatar story, but learning that we're going to get a live action series, an animated feature with an adult Aang, and this animated series with a New Earth Avatar is quite exciting.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening today to our ruminations on the character and the presence of the Avatar in the Avatar universe. Join us next week for our one of our final episodes about Avatar before we return to Star Wars. And we appreciate you listening today.
Until next time.